what I am also gonna do is I'm gonna put my little kitten back there. Now I need you to
Okay,
behave.
we are live. Okay, let's check if
Sweet.
everything's working.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's saying you're live.
nice.
I just need to disable my audio a second. There we go. I'll enable it. I'll enable the audio a second. I'll enable it.
Test, test,
I'll
test. One,
enable
two,
the audio a
three.
second. Testing, testing.
Test, test,
I'll
test. One,
enable
two,
the
three.
audio a second.
Okay.
I'm thinking the audio might be a little on the quiet side, ever so slightly. I've got you on full.
Uh, Let me put you higher.
Here's my big deal.
There we go.
Yeah.
I
You're
I generally have my desktop audio a bit lower because I talk too softly. So whatever else is coming from the desktop, it's like over.
yeah,
My,
that's what I mean. I think your audio's a little on the quiet side
um,
because I've got the stream on full.
I don't know what to do for my voice to be louder. I'm trying to speak louder, but
I think my one needs to be turned down a little.
yours turned down. Okay, I have you at.
Yours needs to be turned up slightly.
I'm at full. I cannot make mine any louder, and I took 4 decibels from you.
Right. Because I can hear you clear through my speakers from the call.
So now can you hear me okay?
Because I can hear you clear through my speakers from the call.
So now can you hear me okay?
Yeah, mine needs turning down slightly. Yours needs turning up a little bit more.
Yeah, I can't. That's all I got. I went into Windows and I put the microphone on full. On Discord, I'm at full. I don't know where I can give more. Any ideas?
What broadcasting software are you using?
I'm using OBS and I am at
Yeah,
maximum.
you're at maximum.
I don't have an option to go over.
What microphone do you use?
Canyon. I have a headset with the microphone integrated.
Right. I'm pretty sure there should be an option in the audio settings for like master volume or something. I haven't used OBS in a while. I switched over to Expert a few year back.
I really don't know what I can do. In OBS, I am at maximum with everything, and so I'm in Windows. Hmm. Oh well, hope it's enough for people to make out what I'm saying. It's been a long issue for me. I think it's just a thing in the family. My brother also speaks very softly, and I always struggle to hear what he's saying. I'm like, what, what, what? And he could be like sitting next to me.
Yeah, it's all a little bit confusing. But what I'm going to do as well is, 'cause I've noticed you haven't set up the tools, so I'll give you the link to.
Please do, thank you.
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to double check. Also, I am incredibly sorry if you hear a a large racket. That is my little kitten.
So, guys, welcome to my stream. Today I am joined by David. He is helping me with my live streaming because I'm super bad at it. Um, he has his own streaming channel. He streams Pokemon, so if you guys are interested in that, you can go check it out. David, please share your links with us. Today I'm going to work on the StardewValley mod, as you well know. It's a project I've been occupied with for a few years now. I'm really hoping this year we get to post a beta version. No promises. It depends on the coder, how much we can get done. I think we have enough maps, but it's kind of empty, so we're still debating. So here I'm trying to redo this pond. I had to move the textures a bit. As usual, whenever I try to add something, I break something else. So here I am trying to fix the pond.
That is always a bit of a nightmare. When one thing works.
Yeah, but you know, like in the end, I do fix a problem that I have, so it turns out okay. I just gotta remember in which order I put some stuff.
That's always good. Bear with me 1 second.
Sure. So right now I have to redo this texture here. Oh, let me open my chat. Hi everyone. Haven't streamed in a couple of months and I already forgot how to do this stuff. There we go, open the chat so I can see whatever you guys are writing to me. So if you want to do an animation in tile, this is what I'm doing to do the bin maps for the game. You have to click here on this little wrench and it will open the animation window. Let me see if I open it. Do you guys see? Yep, now you can see. Should be okay. Come on, OBS, you can do it. Let's see. It's always weird with this tiled window. Let me add display capture. There we go. Now you can like see it automatic. So it will open up this window here and you kind of have to go where you have your texture. So I'm trying to do that waterfall animation and I've selected this tile, which is a mock-up, just so I can like have everything separate. It's just how I want to work. You can overlay other tiles and you get a preview of the animation. And I close. Come on, you can do it. So as you can see here, this is where the old animation was, and I have like these little films, and that's where it saves the animation. If you don't select the right tile, here you can see I put the animation over the grass and I don't want that, and you just hit delete and save. And double check you have the right tile selected. So now I definitely have it. And now I can drag and drop the textures onto, come on, 3, apply, close, and now you have that film animation there, so now you definitely have it animated. So that's kind of how you have to do for the whole thing. And now you can see we have an animation for the waterfall. it's very tedious, and you kind of have to do it for everything in tiled. But this is kind of how Stardew Valley works and how you can mod for it. So you kind of have to deal with it. Have you ever done any animations, David?
I haven't done animation. I did used to do like 3D models
Oh, nice.
for a sort of like a marble run style game,
Mm-hmm.
sort of way, way, way back in the day. And what was the other thing? I did also used to do a lot of like custom sprites. So I'm familiar with the limitations of sprites, and I think that's partly what makes Stardew Valley such a good looking game as well, is because it's very well, obviously sprite based, very like limited palettes, that sort of thing. I think limitations breed creativity.
Oh, yeah, I guess you can view it that way. I think what makes Stardew Valley beautiful is that the animator, the what do you call it, the developer, he had a lot of help from, think, in terms of leveling up his pixel art skills after the studio Chucklefish started working with him somewhat
Chucklefish,
because
yeah, they're another because they did Starbound.
Starbound, yeah, and you can see a significant increase, in my opinion, in the quality of the art. At some point, it's just a huge leap of, in my opinion, from how the art used to look like originally in Stardew Valley, and then it starts looking very similar to Starbound. The color palette, the details, because it's very much pointillism in my opinion. Like if I were to compare the pixel art genre to any formal art style, I would say it's pointillism. And which one was the abstract one? Not impressionism. Maybe I forget the names, but it's like you're taking the essence of an object and just boiling it down to the most recognizable features of it. So, for example, you have a human being, which is a very complex shape, and then how do you arrange a shape to make it clear for everybody that it is a human? And you look at toilets, and you have the sign of that little stick figure human, and even if you've never seen it before in your life, like you can kind of guess it's a human based on your experience as what a human looks like, right?
Yeah.
So it can be hard to do pixel art without knowing like these things. Like how do you take something as complex as a tree and then make it with so little information? And
Yeah,
Starbound, yeah, it's been very good at doing that. Like you look at pixel art from other studios and you look at Starbound and they're like they know their stuff.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of pixel art. I definitely learned to kind of love it through Stardew Valley and kind of gain an appreciation for pixel art. Because at the studios where I worked and did video games, we did not do pixel art. It was just too much of a hassle, I guess, or it wasn't the craze back then. It was like over 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, sort of like the old classic, what I like to call the 8-bit. the 8-bit era
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing with all like the pixel art, the sprite work and stuff. That definitely has made quite a resurgence, especially in indie games. So like you've got sprite work in things like Undertale, Deltarune, which is more traditional, and then
Mm-hmm.
you've got the brighter, more vibrant games such as Starbound, Stardew Valley, where it's essentially the same thing as like the 8-bit era, except they've increased the number of colors from like 32 colors up to like 64 or however many. I don't know the exact technicals of the amount of colors there that they're allowed to run on screen at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when I first started doing sprite work, we must be talking. This was around the time of Ruby Sapphire and Emerald, where there was like 32 different colors or something allowed on screen.
Mm.
Well, it was more than that, but the way they limited the artwork was um, more restrictive, and like there's some impressive sprite work there.
Yeah, you have to fit a lot in very little. What I would say the main advantage of pixel art is it occupies little space. I mean, you look at a game like Witcher, and the textures alone are immense, and they've actually been more organized with their files than other games where it's like it's 100 giga of space. Why? Why is it that big? It doesn't even look that good. Um, so I think that's part of the success for Stardew Valley. It works kind of like on any minimum old bare bones computers. Like trying to think of something how to translate from Romania. A potato peel we used to say like for a computer that is like pretty bad. It's a potato peel. Do you have
Yeah.
anything equivalent in English?
Uh, for an old computer, we
This is
usually
just really bare boned. It's old and it was never good to begin with.
oh, am I allowed to say what I call it?
If you have
um,
an euphemism that is friendly for audiences.
well, a lot of places where they that I know, like shops and stuff, where they still use like older, outdated systems. I usually turn around and tell them to kick the tower. It might make the hamster run around a bit quicker. Um, because yeah, the older systems are a lot slower, but then at the same time, as you've said, it's having access to the like all being sprite work.
Hmm.
Um, it's a lot easier. They can palette cycle um, like tiles in the tile set as well, as opposed to well, I know in like a lot of the older systems, especially like back in the old days of like the Sega, like Sega Genesis and Mega Drive and stuff like that, they used to make an image
Hmm.
and then they used to shift the palette down by so many, which automatically like created the next frame.
Hmm.
Um, obviously that obviously that's more useful for sort of cartridge based games as an example where there's limited storage space. Um, well, obviously, as you can see with Stardew Valley, they've got individual tiles for each frame of animation.
Mm.
Um, but back in the earlier days, that would not have been possible.
Oh, okay. Uh huh.
Uh,
And how would they do it?
So so take take the tiles that you've got at the moment, like the water, like the water and land boundary tiles.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice that they're made of, say, like eight. I'm gonna guess, looking at it, maybe eight, possibly 16
16
different colors.
pixel. Ah, colors. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that creates a color palette.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they would do is they would have that color palette ordered in a very specific way, and then they would shift through. So, like, the first color in the palette would wrap around to the back, and they would shift the colors along. So, like, they would have like the first one, then get replaced, put to the very end, and then it all shifts across. So the second color is now the first color,
Mm-hmm.
and they would cycle it that way through them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but obviously nowadays we're like with Stardew Valley as well. As keeping with that example, it's still a very sprite heavy, um, limited color palettes, but it's almost like it's carried on where before you had the N64 and all the 3D polygons and everything like that for, like, say, like Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, just to name a couple. Um, it all used to be sprite work, and then it moved to the 3D stuff, and then a lot of the 2D sprite work got left outside of like 2D platformers and stuff. But even then, a lot of 2D platformers started going 3D, but from a 2D perspective with a side on view. So it sort of fell out of fashion. Then, as I said previously, the indie developers, they it's almost like they ran with the old technology, so to speak, like the old principles of like sprite work, and then they've improved it for the newer hardware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting how it all kind of evolved, and we're getting like these more and more complex um, games. It's I find it especially interesting in the artificial intelligence kind of way. How you're getting more and more realistic looking and behaving characters in video games.
Yeah, that definitely has been a a large jump, especially in video games as well. Not even just video games, but like all sorts of things. So, like, even like robotics and stuff like that. AI and coding has made huge leaps forward. Um, but yeah, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for sprite work.
It's something that anybody can do. Like that's what I noticed within the modding community. Just anybody can uh, pretty much do mods for Stardew Valley. It's so how should I say accessible. This is definitely the first game I've ever modded for, and it's a pleasure for me. It's with all the support mods, the SMOPy framework. It makes it all even for someone like me that hates programming. So I went to high school mathematics and informatics. Um, because there are issues with the education system in my country, so the art high school wasn't that great. So um, I decided to go mathematics informatics just to make sure I would learn basic stuff like chemistry and physics and things like that uh, tend to get neglected in art schools because there's this like bad idea that oh you're artist, like what do you need to know physics chemistry, and then we're surprised later on how people don't understand things. um
Yeah, it's to be fair, it's kind of like that here to an extent. I mean, obviously, I don't know obviously too much about things there, um, but I can say from here, I know like say our education system is it's got its flaws, but I don't know. It's kind of weird because like I remember when I went to college and for for clarity, I studied computers
Mm-hmm.
in college, but the art block was on the floor below us.
Mm-hmm.
So like everyone sort of like doing their art courses and sort of like the artistic things. Um, the amount of times I walk past, and the amount of people giving them a load of stick for oh you're studying art. It's like yeah, but to be fair, they're probably going to make more money than we are. Like it takes a lot of skill. Like
Um,
pretty much everyone can operate a computer.
I would say that the money thing is a bit more of a complex topic. Like operating a computer, yeah, everybody does that now. The issue is like, can you program it? I would say um, becomes the more interesting discussion. Because, for example, when I worked as a graphic designer for video games, we had, I think, 40 programmers and 10 artists. And the amount of work we could make for the low quality we were doing, because we were doing shovelware, we weren't doing anything particularly fancy. Um, and the kind of programmers that they were hiring, and for the embarrassing salaries they were hiring them, um, we 10 artists were able, and like we were not entry level, so you can generally have entry level artists do decent enough art at a high speed. So it's kind of like hard to compare apples to oranges when it comes to skills and productivity, so to say. So I would say that the artists were not entry level, but they would hire programmers that were entry level, and we were pumping out art as fast as we could, just to be barely acceptable um, for
Yeah,
the shovelware that we were doing, and they were trying to make apps and just really dumb apps like police detector, and it was this app that would supposedly detect where police was around you in the area. Hold on a second, my tiled is getting uncooperative. I have to restart the program. Sometimes some features in it get stuck and I'm not able to work with the program. It's buggy. Um, so yeah, there we go. I am on the back layer. And
yeah,
there we go. And like, yeah, we were having, just junior programmers making these terrible apps or clones of stuff and things like that, really low budget for foreigners. And like I said, you can have like a beginner programmer do this stuff, but if you want like decent enough art where it doesn't look horrible and people don't want to even have it on their phone, you kind of have to get an artist that has some experience under their belt. So if you're looking at it that way, there are more chances for you to find a job as a programmer than as an artist. But at the same time, if you get into the upper half in terms of skill set as an artist, you're gonna be doing better than the programmer. Because I was paid better than those junior programmers that were making crappy shovelware.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think, and this applies to both programmers and aspiring artists. there are a lot of individuals trying to break through, whether that be in the programming side of things, whether that be in the artwork side of things. I mean, even games does like game designers, and like programmers, like even like video game musicians, like the whole game development sphere, whether that be artists, programmers, musicians, whatever role within within a game that you want to take on. It is such a competitive market these days
Mm.
that it's one of those ones that for every like one job there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people applying for them.
And you're not only competing against people in your own country.
Yeah.
It gets really tricky when somebody from abroad accepts a way lower wage and the job is online, because then the employer can do that. But for example, now since we have the pandemic and we've been a lot of working from home, um, for example, a lot of jobs that could be done remotely, they still want you to be in the office and come to work every day using public transportation. So that can get tricky if, let's say, you have healthcare problems. Like you're getting locked out of jobs and then you kind of have to work online, and then you're a little fish in a much bigger pond than you were before.
Absolutely.
But you know, with a lot of tutorials online and things like that, I feel that it's getting easier to be good at something, um, as opposed to the past. Like, let's say you wanted to get more skills to do a job and to learn to do something. It would have been very difficult before, but now you just go online, you look at some tutorials on YouTube, and you figure it out if you're not stupid.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, it's so much more accessible.
Yeah, and with all the disadvantages that you have, I feel like there are also a lot of advantages. So I would say the main issue is figuring things out, and that is time consuming. Because if it's something that your parents don't know, so you have to learn by yourself, it's gonna take you longer than somebody that has parents who know and they teach their kid. And like you have to go there, do this, do that to find out and solve your problem. So it's more of a problem solving skill.
Well, most definitely.
And I often like get younger people asking me like, "How did you find jobs?" Because they want to get into the job market.
Uh, um, at the moment, I'm gonna with great difficulty, um, but like the thing is, obviously I encourage everyone, obviously, to have a great education, obviously. But the one thing I find is it is possible to be overqualified for a job.
Yeah, it hasn't happened necessarily to me as far as I know. Like nobody's told me, "Oh, we're not hiring because you're overqualified." But it has happened to people that I know. Like they've been told by the person saying, "Oh, you know, you're overqualified. We're not gonna hire you," and they were super confused.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to do voluntary work for a local charity that would teach, well, that they would help with all sorts of problems like housing problems, various other things. But they ran courses as well, whether that be for people who have just left prison, older people, people who aren't that tech savvy.
Mhm.
Um, and we, our role was to help them learn how to use computers.
Nice.
And we were dealing with people that had never seen a computer before.
Oh, hardcore.
Or, yeah, like some of these people were like, had been, say, like in prison for such a long time
Mm.
that when like they look at our smartphones now and they're completely confused. Like back then, it was a huge brick with a backpack on it,
Mhm.
kind of thing, and that the backpack was for the battery, which is crazy to think how far the technology has gone.
I'm really excited for the future on that one. I want a robot maid to do my dishes and laundry. And I want it at the price of an iPhone.
Oh, that would definitely make things a lot easier. But it's like with with that voluntary work that I was doing, there was essentially they were running into financial problems,
Mhm.
and I even had the leader of the course say to me that I was more qualified at teaching these people how to use computers than what they were. And being a volunteer and it being me essentially working for them for free, because
Mhm.
that's what volunteering is. And immediately I was the first one they let go as a volunteer.
How does that work?
You know, because quote unquote, I knew too much.
And
So
so
it's like,
what? Your volunteering is not.
yeah,
Well,
logic. I know
it
it
must
makes
have
no
been some
sense.
other reason, like, I don't know. I mean, it sounds
I
like
mean,
so much bullshitty. Anyway.
yeah, I mean, I could have understood if it was like, look, we're running like money's tight.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm working for free. I'm volunteering anyway. Like, if they said the person who's running the course that you're working with, we're having to let them go, which they did, and they were like, we're now unable to financially support that group. If that makes sense,
Mhm.
like whether they had to scale back certain things that they were able to help out with, and that was one of the things that got cut. I could have understood it, but it wasn't cut. So at that point, they then had nobody to help teach these people how to use computers.
That's too bad. Like, they're the ones that are actually suffering from this.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very sad situation, to be fair. Um, it really was.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when things like that happen. It's, it can get you sad, I for sure.
Absolutely.
I've done volunteer work, but like nothing this important or serious. Like, it's usually just teaching kids. I prefer to work with high schoolers because for smaller kids you have to change the way you talk and use smaller words, so to speak, so to say, and it's not always that intuitive for me. I didn't take any formal training in teaching. I've just taught because there was nobody better than me around. So, like, it's either you or nothing. I was like, okay. um, and I also taught for money and things like that. And sometimes I look at kids and I'm like, do you understand what I'm saying? They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I look at them and I'm like, you're lying. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Why are you lying? You're suffering pointlessly. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, some of them can be cute about it. Like they're trying to not look stupid, or they feel embarrassed. I guess maybe in their family, they're not allowed to ask questions. In my family, it was always like you can ask questions, and I would ask questions like. I was that annoying kid. I was like, why is that? And then why that? And then why this? And then why that? And I was never told, stop asking me questions. Generally, there was someone around that would patiently answer me. So I've never had a problem asking questions. So it's always weird to me when I tell people, so do you have any questions? And they're like, no. And then they have no idea how to do something. I'm like, why did you lie?
Yes, yeah. I mean, like the thing is with teachers as well, it's obviously it's incredibly hard work and props to anyone that, teaches for a living. Because especially working with kids as well, it's I don't want to say it's difficult. I mean, obviously it always presents its own challenge. Well, any job, any role does, but uh, I know from my experience, just from volunteering to teach computers to people who had either never seen a computer or just didn't know where to start. Um, but seeing the difference that you make, um, like like when when something just clicks into place and they understand, and you can see their face light up because they
Mm-hmm.
understand everything, and it's just so rewarding.
I never found teaching hard. I would say that for me it feels more binary than on a scale the way it seems for people, and I don't know if it's like an issue with the subjects I teach. So I taught art and Japanese language, the Japanese language, and it seems to me that like if the child is good, they'll learn no matter what. It's definitely gonna be easier for them if the teacher's any good at their job, if they actually know what they're teaching. And if a child doesn't want to know how to learn, then it's almost impossible to force them to learn. So for me, it feels a lot more binary, and it doesn't feel difficult. It doesn't anger me that people don't want to learn. I've been through public education, and there were just some kids that were from bad families, and their like brains were all over the place. They weren't thinking about their welfare long term. Maybe they also had some developmental issues, so like they couldn't learn even if they wanted to. So um, it can be like out of my area of expertise. Like for example, if a child has, I don't know, I'm guessing here ADHD. I've never dealt with a child that has that, but from what I understand, it poses its own difficulties. So if it's something way out of my range, it's not something that I can deal with anyway, and they need to get a different teacher. And I think that's the best thing I can do for them, like tell them, hey, I'm not good enough for you, you need to find someone better that is for your specific mode of learning.
Yeah.
And what I found always like challenging, I guess, in teaching is because I've generally had good kids. I worked in private or camp schools over the summer, so they were selected, they weren't the general population. But even then, I would have kids, like, for example, one girl was beating up her boyfriend because he was doing better in class than her. And I was like, whoa, 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 what's this behavior? Are you seriously beating up somebody that is supposedly somebody you care about because you're doing better at something than you? It was just mind-boggling for me
Yikes.
how,
Wow.
how
That's
and it really brought back memories from when I was in school, and they would have like this gang of boys in my class, and I was the nerdy girl in front and always had good grades. And if any of them answered correctly by accident during class, they would beat each other up so that none of them would do well. So they were like dragging each other down. They're like, oh, you're a nerd. Bam.
like, yeah, now see, that's something I would never be able to understand.
And I don't know what you can do to fix that. Like, I've talked to other teachers and they were like, I have no idea how we can fix that. It's like, stupid, you can't fix stupid. And I'm like, but maybe there is a way. Anybody have any ideas?
I mean, well, I mean, because there's two aspects there. A, there's essentially bullying,
Hmm.
and then, but it's happening when they're in a group.
Yeah, it's
So
like
I would
sort
have
of
thought,
weird peer pressure of dragging each other down so they all stay
yeah.
at the same level.
I mean, the only thing I could think that they'd be able to do in a situation like that is separate them in class. And then obviously, if there's any bullying, deal with the bullying separately.
Yeah, and who's gonna
Like,
volunteer? Yeah, to take
yeah,
care of them because it's extra work. So obviously, like no teacher wants to do that. Personally, I would do it, but I've never like worked in public school to kind of know what actually that implies, like how much of your extra time you have to give up for this nonsense.
well, I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't know what the education system's like, uh, or like the school system. And I know that here
Mhm.
we have usually classes will have one teacher and then at least one, sometimes two assistants.
Oh yeah, no, we only have one teacher and they have to do everything.
Yeah. Because like I guess because if something like that happened here, they would separate them in class, and then if there was any bullying in class or out of class, they would then deal with that separately. If that ended up continuing to be a prolonged thing that was going on, I guess theoretically they would then look to either a kick the main cause out of the school
Mhm.
and separate them that way. But other than that, I don't really know what other options they would have available to them. I mean, I'm no teacher. I just any sort of like teaching, like I said, obviously I know I did the voluntary work where I was teaching people how to use computers, but
Mm.
a lot of that's just common sense. Like for me, it's like now if I have a problem with this, this is how I approach it. And so, really, for me, my level of sort of like teaching people is more just like sharing my experience, I guess. Um, but then, like, obviously, when you're teaching kids as well, obviously, that is a lot more different than, like I said, I was teaching people
Yeah, you
as
were
old as
teaching
like in,
adults, like you don't need to tell them how to behave and
yeah, like,
take
well,
your finger out of your nose.
yeah, I mean. there were a couple of times, like, because believe it or not, and kids will find this actually really, really funny. Even parents and adults play up from time to time. Not very often, but there were. I know when I was doing the voluntary teaching people how to use computers, there was one guy who had just been released from prison. He'd served 12 years. Um, I forget what for, um, but it wasn't a major crime, but at the same time, it wasn't something that was just like it wasn't. It was small, but it was severe. I think it was like an armed robbery of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because of the nature and the severity of what they did, is why they ended up getting 12 years.
Mm.
Um, and I forget what it was that he told. He basically like I forget what it was he done now off the top of my head. He was basically his attitude towards everyone else
Mm-hmm. Antisocial
was
behavior or what?
it was kind of, but he was quite sort of like bolshy and quite threatening
Mm-hmm.
in the way he would speak to people. And it's like, you know, for basically what we're helping him with is it was like helping him get onto the housing register so that he could apply for housing, um, helping him with writing CVs, things like that, so he can get a job and or to apply for a job, sort his benefits out, so he had a source of income,
Mm-hmm.
and various little things like that. And we found that the way he was behaving, um, it was very disruptive to other people.
Mm.
Because obviously we were working sort of as a group. We'd sort of help one person and would go help others, and if they were unsure, they'd let us know, and we'd sit down with them, and we'd sort of go through it step by step with it. And yeah, in the end, it just got so bad they actually ended up having to kick him off the course.
I see.
But obviously, with an adult, it's a lot easier to deal with an adult than it is with a still developing child, if that makes sense. So it's
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I would say you have more chances of communicating with an adult, I think. They're more likely to understand what you're saying, I
yeah, that's
think.
what I mean. It's easier to speak to an adult in that regard than obviously with a child who obviously they are still learning, they are still developing, whereas an adult should know like right from wrong.
We have a character in Stardew Valley. Her name's Pam, and she is an alcoholic. I find it interesting in Stardew Valley that you have all of these problems with the characters. If you haven't played it, maybe you should give it a chance. Like it had a lot of free updates, so kind of now you um, can benefit from them. I like that we got all of these updates for free. I thought the developer was very nice to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen like sort of playthroughs, sort of. I'm just trying to think, sort of the earlier stages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what version the game's on now, but
1.5.
1.5. It was probably like 1.2, somewhere around there,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So again, it's been quite a while.
I kind of like the character development aspect. Like for such a simple games, it can go into some pretty dark discussions, and I thought it was interesting. I just made aware of these things.
Absolutely. I mean, as well, like I'm just trying to think. It's and another game that reminds me of actually with some of its like darker topics and stuff and sort of more mature um not themes, but so like if it comes to like say conflict or grief, and sort of like like a sense of loss and stuff like that is Majora's Mask.
Don't think I played it. I don't play that many games. I'm more of a cartoon fan.
I mean, for the series that it's in, it does cover a lot um, more difficult topics, I guess. Um, but the way they handled it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, that game came out in. Let me just check. Uh, Majora's Mask was released 27th of April
Ah,
2000.
forgot to turn on tiled. So this is what I was saying. Like I forget to switch between windows. If nothing's changing on screen, guys, let me know.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I have two monitors now so that I can see when I'm doing this mistake. Evil cat, no! My cat is trying to knock something down and
Bless. Yeah, my cat's normally good at that, although he's asleep in his blanket at the moment. It's all nice and settled.
yeah, she was sleeping as well, but she heard me talking, so like now she was like, "Give me attention. What are you doing? I'm
Bless.
important." But they
Oh,
are
she is
so cute.
important.
They are so cute. Like I can't be angry at her. Like, she's so adorable, and she
Uh,
looks at with those big eyes. I'm like, fine, I forgive you. Here's more food. I'm like, I'm not training you well. I'm reinforcing bad behavior. I should punish you. I don't know. Or I should only reward you when you've been good. I managed to teach her to give high five and to do massages and to walk on a leash. So
bless.
it is
Yeah,
possible.
my mum's got a three-quarter ragdoll cat. You know, the big
Oh
fluffy
yeah,
ones.
I love them so much, but I'm kind of against breeding, so I'm like, I'm never gonna get one.
Uh, bless. But yeah, Alani, his name is Bless, and he's
So beautiful,
he,
yeah.
he, well, he doesn't fit in the harness now, but we
Mm.
used to have like a harness with a lead, and he used to always because he's an indoor cat, but he always used to go outside
Mhm.
on that. It's just like it's so strange seeing it, but it's so sweet at the same time.
Yeah, people mock me on the street and like, it's not a dog. Well, it wants to go out. What do you want me to do? Let it get hit by a car? Think about it.
Right, exactly.
Are you gonna pay the vet bills? Are you gonna take its pain if it gets hit by a car? No, then shut up.
Well, exactly. So,
I mean, people try and get attention, communicate with others and just fail at it. There are definitely trolls on the internet that do this kind of stuff, like they don't know how to talk to other people in a polite way, but they still want to talk to people and they just put their foot in their mouth in so many ways.
Absolutely.
I don't know how it is in the UK, but here in Romania, so we had communisms and you had informants. So it'll be like people that would just monitor their neighbors and then report to the political party what you've been doing, like who you're seeing, who you're talking to, where you're going, at what time you arrive at home, and all of this, blah blah blah. And after like communism was removed, all of these people just didn't seem to have anything better to do. Like they would continue their previous behavior, and they just jump at you, um, and try and talk to you randomly out of their house. Like I was going to school, and old people would just jump at me, um, and ask me like, "What am I doing? Where am I going?" And it should be just very weird.
Yeah, so
They were like seem to be lacking social skills somehow. But they like still wanted to talk to other people. They just didn't know how to. They were like going through their old routine like a broken robot. It was funny because at first I thought it was only doing it, these old people were only doing it to me, a child. But then my mom was like, no, they jump out at you and ask you where you're going and what you're doing. And it's like, that's how they know how to talk to other people and no other way.
yeah, so
It was a bit funny and sad at the same time.
most definitely.
But like nobody likes them because they got a lot of people into trouble for ratting them out to the party. Like you couldn't have National Geographic's magazines, for example. You could get jailed for that.
Hey, hang on, say that again?
You couldn't have any Western media stuff. So,
Yikes.
yeah, so for example, if you have like a National Geographic or Science V magazine in your house, like the police could come and take you away to jail to rot. And if your nosy neighbors caught you with that, like they found out, oh, you smuggled a magazine. Hey, Pan Pixie, welcome. Thank you. Glad you like it. So this is going to be the Ghibli Town beach area. So we're gonna have a lot of fun places here. Gonna have the beauty salon, and it's gonna be No Face from Ghibli, of the Spirited Away film from Studio Ghibli. Have you seen any of the films, David?
I I'm sorry I haven't.
Oh, it's no
Oh,
worry, but they are beautiful. Like you should definitely check them out.
yeah, sadly I'm not much of a film person.
Mm-hmm.
As hard as that sounds, I've always been more into my video games.
Yeah, same for me. Like we're on opposites.
I mean, there are a few. I mean, there are a few. There are like a few films, but very few. Um, you'll know a film is good if I actually turn around and sit and actually like if I say a film is good, chances are it's really good because again, I don't really do films all too much.
Well, some films can be good, and not everybody is gonna like them because it's a matter of taste.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I guess it depends on the type of film as well.
Yeah, like for example,
Because
I like science fiction more than fantasy, but the amount of each kind of film that's being put out, you're more likely to get better films if more films are made. It's kind of, just how much production is there. Let's say we make 100 films, fantasy, and only two science fiction. Like, what are the odds of getting a good fantasy and versus a good science fiction?
well, yeah. Like for me, like I'm just going to double check as well because I believe this film was before my time. Oh no, it wasn't. It was done in 1990. Um, like I will be the first one to say it's it's most certainly not a film suitable for all ages. I will be totally honest. But it's a film called The Green Mile.
Oh, I think I saw it. It's the one with Tom Hanks, right?
It's the one with Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
He
very
basically
beautiful
works
film.
on a prison where it's
Mm-hmm.
death, basically death row. So people have been given a life sentence to death.
It's a drama, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
but there's a lot of, but it sums up a lot of very, how do I explain it? A lot of very, very much very real issues, um, because there was someone who had been there basically near enough all of their life. Um,
Yeah, it's a sad film.
yeah, it is a really sad
And if
film.
I
They
remember correctly, it does not have a happy ending. Or something that I would consider a happy ending.
Yeah. Well, there does end up being a happy ending in the end, but it does deal with some very challenging subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And what like one of those like as an example, one of them was, and I think it sums up just how difficult it is for people who are released from prison and the challenges they face if they've been institutionalized, i.e., they've been in a prison pretty much for their entire lives, and there's very little, if any, outside help and support they can get to reintegrate back into society. Um, and obviously, I'm not going to go into full detail on it because it's quite gruesome as to what happens, but it perfectly sums up the challenges that they face, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And like films like that have a real that have like real like what I like to call they're dramatized and they're sort of fiction, but they tackle a lot of real life truths
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, and like they like if they portray them in a very good way, like those are the kinds of films that stand out to me. Um, like they have to have a powerful meaning behind them. I guess is probably the best way for me to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm terrible at explaining things. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. You have a degree in computer thingies, not literature or public speaking. And yet, these are things we have to do in our everyday lives quite often. Just be articulate adults.
Yes, I would say it's the joys of mental health and severe anxiety.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
I would say that that's also related to mental health and severe anxiety.
Public speaking, you mean?
No, just why I'm terrible at wording things sometimes.
Ah, I think it's a general issue. I'm not particularly good at it myself. It's just a matter of exercising. It's definitely more difficult when I'm seeing the people, so like I'm glad that I don't have to see your guys' faces. Because if you're facing is like, I don't know, some people explain it as being feeling threatened, and frontal facing is considered aggressive instinctively, so that's why you might feel extra agitated from facing a group of people and talking to them. Not sure how sciencey that is, but for me, speaking in public, even if I have the speech rehearsed, I don't feel fear. Like it's not something that I would say I'm feeling at that exact moment in time, but my hands will start to tremble, and it's very annoying because like why is my body doing this? I'm not afraid of the
Oh,
situation.
I just typically freeze up.
I don't freeze, but I just tremble, and it's annoying. And like this is a illogical response to what's happening to me. Stop that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Body.
once. Sorry, go on.
Pam Pixie agrees with us.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, the worst experience I had with my anxiety. I was out in public.
Mhm.
I was in my local city
Mhm.
centre, and you know when you're like sat in like a square, and like you can see all the different roads and pathways and entrances and exits to that square.
Mhm.
Well, houses just appeared in front, like where those entrances and exits were. It literally felt like I was surrounded by buildings.
So you weren't. You just felt like you were.
No, I weren't, but I saw those buildings, like where a road was, a house just appeared there. So it looked like I physically couldn't leave.
So this was all in your imagination, because I'm not clear on what's happening in the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, where a path was to leave
Mhm.
the the space that I was in, um, yeah. So there was like two foot. There was like a footpath either side of the road, and where that road and those two footpaths at the side of the road were,
Mhm.
um, it just appeared that there were houses there, even though there wasn't a house.
Mhm.
So yeah, obviously it wasn't really there, but my mind got tricked into thinking that it was.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think I've ever experienced that, so I wouldn't know what to say other than glad I don't.
Yeah,
Sorry for you.
I can honestly say that's only happened the once, and I'm glad it's only happened the once because it was a little bit more than mildly terrifying.
What I would say that I experienced and was unusual and unpleasant is lucid dreaming. Um, but it was the kind of sleep paralysis lucid dreaming. If you guys know what that is, it was like you're dreaming that you're getting attacked by something. and it feels very real to you because you're not completely aware that it's not real. So,
Yeah.
um, for those that don't know, this can be triggered by stress, amongst many other issues. And I was very stressed at the time. I was with university and I wasn't getting enough sleep. Um, and the thing is that unlike usual dreams, lucid dreams happen in you dream the room you're in. So like you can open your eyes and see your room, but you're also hallucinating, and like you can see some creature, and you will also feel or hallucinate tactilely. You will hallucinate or dream that the creature is climbing into bed and ripping your guts out. It's a
Yeah,
very scary thing to experience.
now see, I'm the opposite. I can wake up in the morning, think I've woken up in the middle of a supermarket car park when I haven't, and trip over my coffee table.
Oh, so is that like a combination of
It is
sleepwalking or what?
no, it's kind of like as you said, essentially sort of like having a. It's kind of like a dream, sort of like a nightmare, but it's mixed with how do I explain it? It's mixed with essentially like an hallucination. Like
Mhm.
you see, um, what's it called? It's yeah. It seems very much real, um, to the point where I've woken up or I've been like I've been what I've woke up. I've been laying down. Like I've then got up and I think like I'm in the middle of a massive car park to the point where it's that realistic. I can actually
Mhm.
feel the breeze hitting me
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
wind,
yeah. Mhm.
like very, very vividly.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of the time that's caused by a lot of stress. It's the mind is a powerful thing,
Very annoying
very
brain.
scary.
Very annoying brain. And it's like kind of disheartening when you have to rely on such faulty wiring, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're having advances in technology with um, medicine and like what stuff you can find for hallucinations like this, and so it's like less and less of an issue as the decades pass.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunate.
It's not
I'm,
happening fast enough for those that are suffering, of course, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a lot of my issues stemmed from how do I explain it? It's been deep rooted and it's been something that's affected me for many, many years. But was it like the start of last year, tail end of the year before? So sort of within the last couple of years, I was formally diagnosed with PTSD,
hmm,
um, otherwise known as post-traumatic stress disorder,
yeah, it's
and that's where a lot of that came from. Now, I
mhm,
had a lot of therapy sessions with like a psychologist and reprocessing the traumatic experiences that were causing it.
mhm.
And thankfully, I haven't had any issues since.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice progress.
so there has been a lot of progress made.
Yeah, it's such a costly issue that I'm surprised governments are not focusing more on funding for it, because it's a health issue. Just like if you have a broken back and a broken leg, and if you could fix it, and have more taxpayers that are working. Wouldn't that be good? Both for
Yeah, I
them and the
mean,
governments and getting more tax money.
yeah, there's very much an issue here. Like the amount, like there's such a lack of funding for mental health here. Like it's just crazy how underfunded they are. So much so that like these charities and these organizations that are providing support for for people who have mental health. Um, it's actually got to the point where they've actually had to turn around and refuse people
Mm-hmm.
and people who have been what's it called? Who have been getting support from them. They've actually been having to end the support early
Mm-hmm.
because they've just not had the funding. Um, it's and I mean it's crazy. Like for me, it's crazy to think that they allow stuff like that to happen.
Well, they always give like financial arguments for it, so therefore you if you talk to them you kind of have to do it through that lens and hopefully get some more reasonable ones to talk to. And out of curiosity, since you have experience with this, what would you say is cheaper? Getting someone back surgery so they can work again. Let's say a miner got injured in a mining accident, so now their back is broken, they can no longer work. But if you fix their back, they can work again and pay taxes. If somebody has PTSD and they can't work anymore, which is cheaper, back surgery or treating PTSD? Is there any
I
way
would,
you would have that information?
I would assume probably the back surgery would be easier,
Mm-hmm.
money wise.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there are more people in this country that have severe mental health than broken backs,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, ever since the recessions back
Mm-hmm.
in like the global recessions and stuff back in like 2008,
Mm-hmm.
so we're talking
Yeah, I know it.
13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since then, there has been lack of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not as bad nowadays. I mean, it's a little bit more challenging, obviously, now with all the pandemics and stuff. But getting work has been a lot more difficult. A lot more people have then been financially struggling than like the mental health, like depression and stress disorders and stuff like that, have all been kicking in. So there is a bigger need for mental health support now, probably than what there has been since the recession in 2008. It's like, it's probably the best way to explain it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
In
it's like,
Stardew Valley, they. Sorry, continue.
no, that's all right, go on.
Yeah, in Stardew Valley, there are a lot of characters with mental health issues, so a lot of people have been, happy with the it being discussed and being represented. Like, there's a character that tries to jump off a cliff, and you have
Well,
to talk them down. Yeah, it can get pretty serious. It can go in some dark directions. The game. That's why I think it's part of its success. It
it's not afraid to
dabbles.
tackle
Yeah,
heavy
yeah,
topics.
yeah. Of course, people are will always find people that are resisting this. For example, somebody made a mod that was supposed to tackle uh bigotry, and because you don't really have that in Stardew Valley. Like, nobody's being discriminated based on their religion or sex or anything like that. It's just other things are discussed, and there are plenty of other problems than these. And somebody made a mod that was discussing like this ethnic discrimination, and it wasn't Islam, but it was something that seemed to be similar because the character had a rug on the floor and they had a differently shaped thing that they were praying to, um, which you don't pray to object in Islam, or at least you shouldn't if you're uh, following the traditional thingies. And um, he got so harassed that he stopped working on the mod and just gave up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame though because the only way that because I find it's so easy for someone to say, yeah, I understand when like whether it comes to like mental health, discrimination, any difficult subject like that. But unless one has truly experienced it firsthand or witnessed it firsthand, it's like there's being able to understand it, but people are only able to understand so much because topics like that don't get discussed a lot. You know, it's like the amount of stigma attached to mental health, as an example. There's there is a lot of stigma attached, which thankfully is getting better.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience, has been getting better in that regard.
It seems to be on an international level, but like people that aren't on the internet, they mostly are living their lives as they have always been. So in mass media, I guess it's getting better, but like once you step out of the internet media bubble, you're like, oh, it's I'm in the Middle Ages again.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like for me, I've noticed that whilst there can be stigma and stuff like that on the internet, but I mean, the internet's the internet. Keyboard warriors are plenty, so to speak. But now that the more difficult topics are getting discussed
Mm-hmm.
on a more public level,
Yeah.
um, it's I forget what the statistic is. I think it's like 1 in 3 or like 1 in 2 people um, will experience mental health, whether that be directly or through someone they know.
I'm surprised it's not more, because it's like you get a boo boo and an owie and a flu at least a couple of times in your life. I'm surprised you're not getting mental illness issues more often, like
Yeah.
stress
Well,
eating or anorexia or stuff like that.
but that I mean that also includes things like anorexia and sort of eating disorders and stuff.
Yeah, I find those to be a lot more common in everybody with various periods of their lives. I think it's underreported, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, statistically, all forms of mental health, it used to be 1 in 4 people would experience mental health or be directly affected by it.
And
But in the
now,
last sort of like 15, 20 years, it's got the rates have skyrocketed.
I think there more people are being diagnosed. Like, for example, certain crimes, uh, the rates. Are you. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still
Oh,
here.
okay. I heard some weird noise and I didn't know what happened. Like some rates of crime. Um, Romania and the US are at the same level, and then there's Sweden that is even worse than both countries. And I'm like, that is not possible. There's way less crime there in general. Why would that specific type of crime be more prevalent, and I think it's just more reported and taken seriously in Sweden than it is in US or Romania.
Yeah.
Because
But
there's
yeah,
a lot
no.
of stigma attached to it, so victims will often not report that they've been attacked.
Yeah.
I put on the right layer. Gotta check, because sometimes I'm on the wrong layer. Okay, it's the struggle of being an artist, drawing on the right layer.
Yeah, it's I mean it's difficult enough with me actually doing the occasional sort of thing on Photoshop for like overlays and stuff like that, and I struggle with like having 4 or 5 layers. And then
Oh,
there's like professional artists that are sat there with like 100 and something layers plus.
oh, like on this. Let me see. In Photoshop, let me open back Photoshop. So, um, let's go on top and make a new layer because it does count them automatically. So let's see. Close some of these folders because I
I,
have a lot
I
of
see layer
textures.
300 and
No, 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 no. Wait, wait, wait. Control Shift N. So I have 422 layers that aren't named because there are more. But 400 I
yeah,
didn't have a chance to name.
that's crazy.
And I will merge them together later when I don't need to edit the specific item. Usually I don't have that many, but for me it's just more comforting and easier to work if I have more editability. So I just move something. I don't need to cut and move it, and it's just faster for me to work that way.
Yeah.
What is annoying about Photoshop, you have a 2 giga limit on files, so you cannot save files that are bigger than 2 giga.
Really? Is a 2 GB file size limit?
Yes, it is annoying.
Well, considering I used to do sprite art and like pixel art and stuff and sprite
Yeah,
work,
it doesn't get that big.
yeah, fortunately, I was going to say I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, when you're trying
Um,
to do art prints for your shop, let's say, and you need high resolution because the shop obligates you, it doesn't have a inbuilt tile feature. So for example, Redbubble has a built-in tiled feature, but for Society 6 doesn't, so I have to do the file, and I have to do it huge for the resolution for bed covers and curtains and things like that. And sometimes it will not save. Yes, it is very annoying, 2 giga limit. So be careful if you're wanting to save. So what I'll do is create smart objects, and that will reduce the file size and will still keep me some editability, but you have to go in anyway. And I do like separate files. I can't do one file for all of my prints. I have to do one for each, and it can be a nuisance, but at least you're able to do it.
yeah. I mean, so has that always been a thing then, the 2 GB limit?
As far as I can remember, yeah.
Because I first started out using Photoshop Elements 3, I believe it was.
I think I started with Photoshop Elements as well, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. Like, I started using it in 2008, so whatever it was at the time. And other programs, I haven't tested them that much. I'll have to see for Clip Studio Paint. My files can get to 1 giga on Clip Studio Paint when I'm doing the comic books. I think usually they're around 500 mega. Have to let me check. I might be mistaken and remembering wrong. So I worked on a comic book and we did 200 pages, but I have them each file its own page. Let's see. Oh no, it's 32 mega. Yeah, I'll have to maybe at some point check and compare how much they're processing stuff. Tiled, what are you doing? Okay. I had a hole
Interesting.
in my menu bar. I can see the desktop. It's a very interesting buggy program. But it's kind of the best you have in this domain. Tiled, I used another program before and it didn't have as many options in the menu for coding tile properties. So tiled is better than the others. I'm surprised how underdeveloped support for pixel art games it is. I mean, for other usual games, you have so many things from Unity to Unreal Engine to just a bajillion other uh, programs to do your maps in video games.
Yeah, because I mean I used to do I did this is where a lot of my sprite work went into being a Pokemon fan. A lot of it went into designing like custom regions.
Mm-hmm.
No like specific story or anything like that. Just like just because I mean I'm not a story writer or I'm not good at all the scripting side of things, but it would be I'd have all the encounter tables customized and all that sort of stuff and the over like the region overworld stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like design like the regions kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in ROM hacks, although that was the media that I used to be able to showcase them. But obviously, I never like released any ROMs or anything like that to like for the public or anything like that. It was strictly just to, I suppose, in a way, be able to display like all the sprites and the tile sets and the graphics and stuff like that in a format that made sense. Like rather than just take like a screenshot of it, being able to actually like walk around and actually explore your creation
Mm-hmm.
um, was was
Fun.
yeah, it was sort of like for me being able to see like what I'd done, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Sort of go through.
I got into it because I wanted to do my own video games anyway, so usually for the companies that I worked for, I just did the textures and somebody else would do the level design, but if I had to do my own games, I would have to do those things. So I thought to myself, well, it's gonna be a working experience, sort of learning experience. And I really do enjoy this part, just doing the maps, creating the
Yeah,
worlds.
I mean, I very much was more into like the level design aspects of game design. So like making the maps, making the objects um, that basically built like the game world itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah, back when I was a kid, I had an aspiring job to be a programmer.
Mm-hmm.
but that dream kind of how do I put it? Kind of fell flat on its face,
Mhm.
but I still stuck with like being able to do like texture mods, texture
Mhm.
pack, and sort of the more graphical side of things. I'm not really an artist. It was more purely a hobby, but at the same time, like whilst it looked good, um, compared to an actual artist, it would not have stood up well.
Well, you can be good at everything, and being a good artist takes time. So if you don't have the time, it's not gonna be as good. It's kind of a issue like that.
Yeah, that's
And also depends how much time you want to invest and how much you enjoy it. Because, for example, I could probably learn to code enough to do a Stardew Valley mod. Maybe not something more complex, but it takes so much time that I could use that time and make 100 maps for other modders, and they can do the coding for me, and I do the art for them, and we exchange our times this way, and therefore we both get what we want faster and better than if we did it by ourselves.
yeah,
So it becomes sort of a resource management logistics issue. Like, what's the most efficient way to get what you want at the highest possible quality?
yeah. I mean, like as I say, going back to the designing the Pokemon regions, sort of like designs.
Mm-hmm. Soon, you guys cool. Thank you. Thank
No
you.
worries. It's
Take
I'm a
care.
little bit out of my depth there.
How do
Um,
you usually do your streams?
um,
Good night, Pan Pixie.
Good night, time, Vixie. It's yeah, for me, when it comes to me doing streaming, because of the nature of the stuff that I do within the Pokemon games, like I tend to focus more on like the competitive battling side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of the time I would either do draft leagues as you've seen on the YouTube side of things.
Mm-hmm.
That was from the last league that I was in. Um, it's like for me, I would focus more on the battling side of things. So like I would sort of like battle with viewers and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So people would watch the stream. They'd be like, "Hey, I'm up for a battle."
Mm-hmm.
They'd sign up to battle, and obviously battling with viewers. Uh, well, do Pam Pixie and you.
Yeah, I've asked people if they wanted me to come decorate their farm because I do have farm tours and things like that, but they were all too embarrassed to like show their farms online. Cause they're like, no, my farm's ugly. I don't wanna, I don't wanna show it to anybody.
Yeah, I'm like that with my Minecraft builds because I'm really not a builder. Um, that's why I suppose that's why I don't play games like City Skylines and stuff because I'd be terrible.
Oh yeah,
Um,
each to their own.
yeah,
I like organizing things and making them pretty, so for me it's a pleasure to kind of show something ugly and then it's like, look at how good it looks now. Eh?
yeah. It's I think with me as well. I find that with a lot of stuff that I do, is probably better than I think it is. but I don't like assuming that it is, if that makes sense.
Mm. You don't believe them when they tell you, like, no, looks good, and you're like, no, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Why are you
Yeah,
lying
that's
to me?
yeah, that does kind of sum it up quite well.
It's okay. We're not famous, so nobody is really paying that much attention to what we do, so that's comforting for me. I have only 1,000 subscribers.
That's like 1,000 more than me.
I have been on YouTube, I think. Oh, I created the account maybe 10 years ago just to be able to be on YouTube, but been posting for 6 years and kind of only taking it seriously since this summer.
I mean,
So,
if it's any help, I'll tell you when I first uploaded. I uploaded, oh jeez, the 12th of October 2016, so it's been over 5 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot of work to update and put stuff on YouTube. Like you have to have a decent job before, like. And I
yeah.
started posting it, as for fun. People kept asking me about art and stuff, so I started with tutorials, and I kind of only recently it kind of started silly enough, with me getting pissed off, because that's usually a good kick for me. Like something pisses me off really badly, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it better. um,
Yeah, like
so
like
what
for me,
what happened was that, and I'll let you continue just a bit because I want to clarify this. So YouTube started posting ads on my tutorials, and it wasn't giving me any money because I wasn't monetized, meaning I didn't have 1,000 subscribers. So they were making money off of me, not giving me anything, because reasons. Because I had been verified before, and I had made for $20 or $50. I don't remember, like, 6 years ago. And of course, they don't give me that money because they don't give anything that was more than 3 years ago. Um, and they started putting ads on my tutorials, and that's when I got, oh, you know what? Here, because I could see, like, they would give me the stats, and I could see how much money they would potentially be making, because I could see how many views I was getting. And I was like, you know what? That's my money. YouTube. So yeah, please say what you wanted to tell us.
yeah, I mean that's YouTube for you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like for me, the whole reason why I started streaming, and uploading and stuff like that, a lot of it for me was actually a coping mechanism with the mental health.
Mm.
It
Mm.
gave me, because I say fortunately, but kind of unfortunate at the same time,
Yeah.
that because of my mental health, I'm
Mm-hmm.
unable to work.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for me, with the mental health not being able to work, didn't really have a routine, didn't really have. Basically, I had too much spare time,
Mm-hmm.
and in the end, I was like, rather than sit around, what I want to do something that I enjoy. Being able to, like, I've got a strong love for video games, so it's like, well, I like playing video games. Um, what can I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And then, whilst I was laying on my sofa, really, really chronically depressed, really in a bad place, I stumbled across a friend, now a long-time friend of mine, who had just started streaming, and he was started streaming for the exact same reason I did. Um, and he said to me that I should he's like, dude, start streaming.
Mhm.
And I'm like, mate, you're insane, aren't you? Me start streaming with what? I don't have a computer. Um, I'm on low income. I don't work. How do you expect me to do this? Anyway, managed to slowly save up, get the bits and pieces
Mhm.
together,
Mhm.
and started streaming. And those first two streams, I had such a blast doing them, and just haven't looked back. I mean, I don't have a fixed schedule. I'm not one of those people that stream every day because, you know, I stream when I'm up to it. Mental health,
Yeah.
obviously,
Mhm.
is a very volatile thing. You can be fine one day and the next week can be dreadful, or vice versa. You could have a really terrible day and then have a great couple of weeks or so.
Mhm.
Um, so, like for me, it's like I stream when I'm feeling up to it. But it gives me an opportunity to share my love of video games and share my experiences with others.
Mhm.
And I've always said I don't want it to be one of those things that I mean if it takes off and it takes off and it becomes a huge channel, I mean who would refuse that? Do you know what I mean? Being able to do
Mhm.
that for a living. It's like for a lot of people that's the dream job, being able to do something you enjoy for a living.
Mhm.
But like for me, if I can help one person who's having a bad day and help make that person's day just that little bit better and just that little bit more bearable, I've done my job. And that's how I've always seen it.
Mhm.
So it's like, you know, but again, like I said, I don't have any fixed schedules because A, I'm not in a position where it's a job,
Mhm.
and B, it it because obviously I don't work, it gives me the opportunity to now if I've got some free time, chill out, play a few video games, have a laugh and a joke with people, and it's by no means serious. It's just very very chilled, very relaxed, and I mean I guess that's what I've always seen the platform as. Being able to stream is is just a place to be able to chill, have a laugh, have a joke, and yeah, I guess if it takes off, it takes off. But I'm not going to be one of those people that chase it because, again, it boils down to the you want to be a programmer or you want to be an artist. Well, so does the 500,000 people standing behind you. Do you know what I mean? It's like so difficult to break into. It's like if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. As
Yeah, I
they
can
say.
see where you're getting at. Yeah. For all its faults and issue, YouTube is offering an outlet for people that otherwise might not be able to make a living within the social structure they have, like the framework, because of various issues. For example, on Twitch, there's this famous lady. She has Tourette's syndrome, and it's kind of hard to be her coworker. So it's kind of nice that she has an outlet on Twitch.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I think you know about her, right? She's pretty famous at this point. I forgot the name.
I will be honest. I again, I tend to sort of follow the like sort of smaller channels, I guess.
I don't follow her because I'm not that interested in Tourette's. But she came up in my feed because of Tourette's. She says bad words, so it was all over the place. Ex famous Twitcher has said the N word, and we're gonna burn her at the stake. And she's like, wait, wait, wait.
Jeez, yeah, I was gonna say, and with all the new copper stuff and everything like that, it must be an absolute nightmare for her.
Um, I really don't know.
Well, I mean, I would have thought. Well, I suppose obviously it also depends on the type of Tourette's as well, I guess.
She does says curse words and she has verbal tics.
Right. So yeah, so it's safe to say that there's quite a lot of stuff that gets said that isn't.
Yeah, she has a disclaimer on her channel. It's
Yeah,
like, hey,
that's what I was going to say because obviously with all the new restrictions and the like all the new policies and laws and stuff that went into place with like the copper and everything like that, it's I can imagine that must have been quite the nightmare
must be very
trying to.
frustrating as well, because like I don't think it's easy for her to have a job in the first place, and then finding a place on Twitch to be herself, and then she's kicked out of there as well. I think her channel has been restored since though.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing. It's I mean I don't tend to follow a lot of the mainstream like YouTubers and Twitch streamers and stuff like that because for me, yes, whilst it can be a great business job opportunity, if it takes off, there's no guarantee it will take off. Whereas being able to do something positive with that outlet, whether that be sharing your
Yeah,
experiences
yeah, that's
and be able to help make
true.
a difference to other people, um, again, that's why I tend to follow the smaller channels because I find that when you get to a point where you become too mainstream, you lose your identity and you lose like all meaning is lost as to why they started streaming in the first place.
I think it depends on the channel. Like there are computer related channels that my husband follows, and I kind of look at them as well because I think they're interesting. Um, but they've always done the same thing for years on years. Like for example, Nexus Gamers, I think they're called Gaming Nexus. It's a guy that has like really long hair. What's his name? Uh, do you know the channel I'm talking about?
I can't say I've personally heard
Gamers
of it.
Nexus. Okay, my husband's been telling me the name. They do like reviews for computer parts and things like that, and evaluations, and um, I think their channel is very interesting. And even for someone like me that isn't particularly interested in computers, other than I work with them, I need them. It's kind of like I need to know how my car works because I use it to go to work, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they make things easy and interesting for me as well. And as far as I can remember, they've always done the same thing. Nothing has changed. They haven't sold out or lost their soul or anything like that. And
Yeah, to be fair, not all channels lose what they stand for when it comes to when they become sort of mainstream and they do it as a job.
mm,
But I find it is so easy for a channel to lose its identity and lose what makes it stand out.
maybe that's has been more of your experience. Like I've been watching, for example, the Garden Answer channel about gardening, and they started out with a little house, a little by American standards, and now they have a big house, which is just it's humongous. They have 5 acres of land, and they think it's a medium-sized farm.
Yikes. That's
Yeah, Americans are completely bananas. Like they have more tigers than India, I think, at this point, or Bangladesh, Texas, and like a farm in the U.S. is considered something that is 20 acres. And I'm like, 20 acres? That's like, in Europe, that's a country. Honestly, let me check. Liechtenstein, what's the surface area? Liechtenstein surface.
Monaco.
Monaco is a country. It's definitely smaller than 20 acres. So Liechtenstein is 150 kilometers, square kilometers. Let's see, 20 hectares in kilometers square. Can I get a conversion? uh, 0.2, 20 hectares is just 0.2.
Square kilometers.
Oh, that's not much, 20 hectares. It's just...
Well, if you have to plow it. It's
Yeah, if you have to plow it, but now I'm looking like 0.2 square kilometers. Not impressive. Okay, it's less than Liechtenstein. Now, this is why you have to do the math, so you don't talk out of your butt when you say things like this. My husband is laughing because he can do the math in his head, so he was like already laughing, like I'm
There is
talking
a
besides
difference
the
between
point.
an acre and a hectare as well.
Uh, maybe they had acres. I don't know.
Yeah, 20 hectares is 0.2 square kilometers,
Yeah,
whereas
so maybe
acres
it was acres. Let me check.
0.08.
20 acres in square kilometers. What is that? It's more. No, it's less. What?
0,4
Yeah.
hectares on acre.
Acru. I don't know. Do we have?
0,4 hectares on acre.
I've never heard of acru. So that's. It seems acru is the Romanian version of an acre, but like, who uses that measuring system?
Everybody.
Oh, acre is
In my country, like we always talk in hectares. I'm not a farmer, as you can tell. I'm just a Stardew Valley farmer. I have no idea what I'm
so
talking
good.
about.
Yeah, so
Everybody that actually lives on a farm is like, this city girl does not know what she's talking about.
right. So how many acres are in a hectare then? Just so I know. Okay, so a hectare is just under, well, it's just over 2.4 acre, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, to me, her farm seems just huge. To have 5, I don't even know, acres, hectares, whatever she has, I don't remember. But it's just so much land, and you know, here in Europe, everything is very congested. Like, if you want to buy a piece of land to build a house and have like a parking garage, it's so expensive. But there's
Yeah.
still parts of the US where land is like fairly cheap. It's like shockingly cheap, but you don't have anything on it, like no amenities. And I think you can still get areas like that in Europe where you're just buying land up a hill where you can't grow anything and you can't put any gas or electricity or anything, so then it's cheap because nobody wants it.
Yeah.
But I find it comforting to kind of see how many people are enjoying Stardew Valley, and there's just such a resurgence in people that want to live on a farm. Obviously, like me, they don't have the faintest clue of how any of it works, and just how difficult it is to actually have a property that isn't in a city, because you don't have gas, you don't have electricity, you don't have anything. And Stardew Valley sets unrealistic expectations of your chances of survival. Because I don't know if you remember, but you inherit this land from grandpa, a house, and it somehow has water
Yeah.
to
And
it.
the land is a complete mess.
Yeah, but and you can just do it with a shovel by yourself. My husband has some land around his work building, and I thought, well, I'll just plant some sunflowers or some pretty stuff around here because nobody's using this land. And I took a little shovel and I hit the ground with it, and I was like, oh, it's not like in Stardew Valley. I tried to hit it again, and I couldn't stick the shovel in the ground. It was like, this is not as advertised. It's not working. Because there's stones in the ground, and it's been walked with cars and other things, and it hasn't been used in decades, and it's definitely nothing like the video game. I would say the cookie clicker is more realistic.
Clicker is life.
Yeah, you click and cookies appear. Like, it's more likely that that will happen than what I tried to do. I did manage to finally dig some holes, and I planted some raspberry, and I'll see in the spring if any of it survived, because it was like hard to get there. Like, I had to jungle machete my way to the area where I could like plant it, because I didn't want to plant it like next to the road where everybody's walking and there's stray dogs and things like that, because I was afraid somebody might knock the strawberries and rip them out. So I actually had to use some deeper into the part and see what's going on.
Yeah, you are dropping frames according to Twitch, and then if I reload, yeah, your frame